On your feet. Come on, people, let's sing this song. We're going to see before it goes away. Here we go. I am glad for this new day. I am glad for this new day. I am firm within God's power, and I feel the presence here. I salute the Christ in all, and I listen without fear, with their mind and loving heart. I am glad for this new day. I am glad for this new day. I am glad for this new day. And I feel the presence here. I salute the Christ in all, and I listen without fear, with clear mind and happy heart. I am glad for this new day. I am glad for this new day. Woo-hoo! We did it.
You gotta get one that's
Okay.
only paid $30.
Next week we're singing This Little Light of Mine.
Says that everybody knows. Well, hopefully we will have this fixed. We will have this fixed. Okay, so I am the pulpit assistant today. And we have Maurita as our speaker. And as ever, our wonderful Bill Hoffman is here especially for music. Pam Woods is be our reader. And take it away, Pam.
Thank you, Nancy. Sorry I messed you up.
That's okay. It was an easy fix.
Is everybody dancing?
That's fine. No big deal.
I got this lovely book from a friend, and I found this passage that really spoke to me, and it's kind of spoke to what we're working on in our journaling class. And I'm just going to read you a paragraph of it, but it opens with a quote from Balzac, which says, "The more one judges, the less one loves." Since many judgments are based on fear, an exercise you can do is acknowledge your judgment and then ask yourself, what is the truth? And then, what can I do to offer love or compassion? For instance, if you judge another person because he or she is different and you feel yourself avoiding them, you may have created a story to justify your judgments. This specifically speaks to me, so I was really glad to find it. However, if you ask yourself what the truth is, you will be able to find your own course of action to offer acceptance. Finally, forgive yourself. Release the negative energy around the judgment. Recognize it, confront it, heal it, and then forgive it and yourself. Forgiveness offers a release of attachment. From this place, we can learn to accept differences and ourselves more. When we heal our inner judge, forgiveness and acceptance replace fear and criticism.
And thank you, Sister Mary Pam. Okay, so I also want to remind everybody to please turn off your cell phones or just one vibrate, please. You didn't do that when you came in. And so now we're going to stand and sing our first hymn, which is number 75. They'll know and believe it. All three verses. 75.
This morning, I wanted to share with you a reading from The Oversoul by Ralph Waldo Emerson. I found it to be perfectly beautiful, and I hope you will too. Ineffable, which means undescribable. Undescribable is the union of humans and God in every act of the soul. The simplest person who in his or her integrity worships God becomes God. Yet forever and ever, the influx of this better and universal self is new and unsearchable. It inspires awe and astonishment. How dear, how soothing to one arises the idea of God peopling the lonely places, effacing the scars of our mistakes and disappointments. When we have broken our God of tradition and ceased from our God of rhetoric, then may God fire the heart with God's own presence. It is the doubling of the heart itself, nay, the infinite enlargement of the heart with a power of growth to a new infinity on every side. He had it. He knew it. He experienced it. He knew what it felt like to have that influx, to be filled with the presence, with the knowledge and the experience of God within and without. We listen to him and we think to ourselves, yay, 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 let that happen to me as well. Forever and ever, the influx of this better and universal self, that's when he experienced the soul as well as God. This is new and unsearchable. An experience that lifts and forever changes an individual. It inspires awe and astonishment. How dear, how soothing to one arises that the idea of God. Peopling the lonely places. Someone is never alone. God is always there. Effacing the scars of our mistakes and disappointments. No more sense of mistakes. No more guilt. But only a gratitude for the experience. When we've broken with our God of tradition, got the man in the sky with wearing a bed sheet, that one. Or ceased from our God of rhetoric, just words, empty words about God. Then may God fire the heart with God's own presence. And that's what we want. We don't want the words, we don't want just ceremony. We want the experience. That's what we long for. That's what empowers us to greater and greater spiritual effort, to an ongoing consciousness that God is with us always, always to help, always to lift, always to love. And he speaks about the enlargement of the heart, the feelings, the sense of love, of God's presence, of blessings, so that it is unbounded. It can't be controlled or closeted in some way. It bounds and rebounds. Ralph Waldo Emerson has a place in our history that is well deserved. Well deserved. Shall we get still now? And now we reach out mentally, emotionally, spiritually for that presence. Let our hearts be fired, our feelings be filled, our sense of oneness be complete with the being of God that is God's being us, being within and around, being always available, being tender, being loving, being our very own, because He is their very own to every soul that has ever been created. In the 90 seconds of silence that we are going to have in just a few moments, would you just open yourself? Would you say, here I am, fill me, enlighten me, heal me, love me, right now, and always. Come unto me, all ye who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And if we rest in the Lord, whenever we can, we find that indeed the everlasting arms forever hold us, forever protect us, guide us, forever love us. Whatever the challenge, by ourselves we are weak, uncertain, but with the consciousness of God, we are defended, we are powerful, we are loved and guided. And for that, we give deepest thanks. Amen. I've only been doing this for 40 years, and I did it wrong this one.
Just different, not wrong.
We're flexible.
Yeah.
Shall we say our divine sign statement of being? You'll find it in your honors of service. God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am the individualized expression of God and am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. And then,
Bill.
don't have it. Okay,
Bill.
Bill's next.
Bill.
Hoffman, music.
okay, and then I'll come back to the Lord's Prayer.
And then we'll, yeah. It's so fun to be different.
Good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
Well, in jazz, we don't make mistakes. We sometimes have happy little accidents. I got that from a painter. And then we play that note that you thought was bad, we play it twice, so it looks like it's part of the song. The tune I'm going to play for you this morning, I think, kind of fits in with your message. It's called There Will Never Be Another You.
Since we've already meditated, shall we just say the Lord's Prayer, which is a, oh, we don't have it.
No, we'll just listen to you.
All righty. Why don't I say it and you repeat it after me? Would that be all right? Our Father who is everywhere,
Our Father who is everywhere,
your name is sacred,
Your name is sacred.
Your kingdom is come.
Your kingdom is come.
Your will is throughout the earth,
Your will is throughout the earth,
even as it is throughout the universe.
even as it is throughout the universe.
You give us our needful bread from day to day,
You give us our needful bread from day to day,
and you forgive our offenses,
and you forgive our offenses,
even as we forgive our offenders.
even as we forgive our offenders.
And you let us not enter into materialism,
And let us not enter into materialism,
but you separate us from error,
but you separate us from error.
because yours are the kingdom,
Because yours are the kingdom,
the power, and the song and praise,
the power, and the song and praise,
from all ages throughout all ages,
from all ages throughout all ages,
sealed in faith, trust, and truth.
sealed in faith, trust, and truth.
Thank you.
Amen.
Well, this morning I'm going to be talking about taking yet another look. Okay. For a while now, when I've read the paper, I've been trying to move past just the headlines and then skimming the rest of the paper. I'm always reading Dear Anne and always reading certain of the comics. But I've been taking to reading the editorial page, which usually is pretty thoughtful and makes a lot of sense and has a good bit of information in it too. And interesting. Sometimes I even read the letters to the editor. Not usually. But last week I did. I read several of the letters to the editor, and there was something that kind of hit me between the eyes, because it highlighted a question that I've asked myself quite a bit lately. And I'd like to share this letter to the editor with you. It's entitled Beliefs. Why is it that when we are bound to our beliefs, sometimes in the face of a storm of evidence that contradicts those beliefs, specifically in the realm of politics, why do we hold fast to ideas that our country, to the best personal and that are contrary to our best personal and national interests, common sense and fistful of facts? Why do we still keep holding on to these ideas? How do we explain deeply religious, moral, evangelical voters supporting an immoral, amoral, adulterous, and dishonest president who takes benefits from the poor and sick to give tax breaks to the ultra-rich and corporations rolling in profits? In his book, the letter goes on, in his book, The Righteous Mind, Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion, the author, a man by the name of Jonathan Haidt, proposes that, and I quote, people bind themselves into political teams that share moral narratives. Once they accept a particular narrative, they become blind to alternative moral worlds. Embedded gut instincts make decisions, and the mind rationalizes those decisions. In his studies, Haidt found this was not reasoning in search of truth, it was reasoning in support of emotional reactions. Culture or tribe is family, friends, colleagues of similar beliefs. Culture or tribe provides the support to cement beliefs in place. Now, the writer of this letter to the editor quoted yet another book, The Knowledge Illusion, Why We Never Think Alone. This is by Sloman and Fernbach. This book confronts the science and fact deniers, stating, quote, scientific attitudes are not based on rational evaluation of evidence, and therefore providing information does not change them. Attitudes are determined instead by a host of contextual, which means background, their background and cultural factors that make them largely immune to change. He goes on, studies have shown that when confronted with hard evidence contrary to their beliefs, subjects will harden those beliefs. Now, he was quoting from this book by Mr. What's his name? Fernbach. Oh, but the man who wrote the letter to the editor said this: there's a lesson and a challenge here for all of us, left, right, and in between. The lesson is that we can be wrong. And the challenge is that we need to dig into our thinking to see if we are guided by reason or gut reaction based on bad information and tribal instincts, family background instincts. Unquote. Well, politics and science aren't the only places where there seems to be a pretty wide division between the average person and experts. The folks who have spent maybe 20 or 25 years studying a certain subject. This really kind of puzzling gap, not valuing expert opinions, can be found all over the place. The expert economists in the United Kingdom have been warning for a very long period of time about the difficulties the country would experience if they went into Brexit, if they separated themselves from the European Union. They'd face negotiating trade agreements with every single separate country in the European Union, and that could be horrendous. But the public didn't choose to believe the expert economists. And lo and behold, last Friday, England left the European Union. Now, time's going to tell who was right, isn't it? The experts, or on the other hand, the politicians and the public. Also, how long have the global weather experts warned us about the catastrophic dangers of climate change? Still, there are a lot of people who do not believe them. They won't experience an understanding from the experts. To see any relationship between the severe changes in weather patterns and a warming planet seems to escape some people. Despite these experts' dire warnings, how much has actually been done by various countries to delay or prevent climate change? Not very much. They're not listening to the experts either. But finally, in our own country, there are a wide variety of experts who say that Mr. Trump has made major mistakes during his term in office. But there's a sizable number of the part of the population, the public, who fervently support him anyway. They're not listening to the experts. Well, I have to apologize, really, if there are any Republicans in this room or any that are looking at us on the internet. But the author of this letter to the editor has really done us a kindness because he's done a lot of reading and he has clearly pointed out some major reasons why facts, why truth, why hard evidence has no effect on someone who has made up their mind. I want to quote again. Embedded gut instincts make decisions, and the mind rationalizes those decisions. And the second book he quoted pointed out that even scientists are guilty of this same kind of thinking. And that statement really brings to mind that it's been said that it takes a couple of generations for doctors to change some of their routine attitudes about remedies for certain illnesses, both mental and physical. The majority of the tribe, that is, their colleagues, need to either retire and disappear from the scene, or change their thinking, their attitude, to their approach to these solutions to the problems. It will take the balance of them to change their thinking. In other words, unless the majority are saying, believing, approaching difficulties in the same way, there will be old practices, unhelpful practices that continue, simply because people are in the habit of doing that. For instance, how long did it take before the doctors in general recognized the importance of nutrition in staying healthy? Very long time. But the unpleasant truth is that every one of us is guilty of this same way of thinking. Now, we might have told ourselves even, I'd never do anything like that. I'd never ignore hard facts and just make an emotional decision about something. But if we think about it a while, many of us can reluctantly remember making decisions like that, sometimes based only on an automatic emotional reaction that came from a tribal, that is family, belief, based on misinformation. Carried it for years before we finally confronted it. Haven't at least some of us fervently held an opinion that came from a negative encounter that we generalized to any situation that bore any resemblance to the original experience? In other words, been there, done that, never going to do that again, even if it just on the surface looks somewhat the same. An emotional reaction and a firm, hard decision. Or have we found ourselves having a negative reaction on meeting someone because they looked like someone, reminded us somehow of someone with whom we had had some painful interactions? Don't want that person, no way. You remind me too much of. I wonder why we human beings have that tendency to harden our beliefs instead of examining them. That's not a question that I know the answer to really, but we can see it in so many different places. A man by the name of Andrew Spicer, who's a professor at the University of London. He's saying the same thing. He's agreeing. He says, we often make quick decisions about complex issues, just judge on the very surface of them. A quick decision about, on a complex issue, on the basis of our past beliefs, our inbuilt biases, or even chance associations. After we've made these decisions, which often happen in a matter of milliseconds, we start the laborious process of proving ourselves right. Unquote. And then he also adds that humans have a tendency to avoid what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. When the facts don't fit our beliefs, we tend to prefer the facts. Or not prefer the facts, but to change the facts rather than our beliefs. information that questions those beliefs is very carefully ignored. Now, my talk this morning is entitled Taking Yet Another Look. If you're like me, you may have wondered why some people just ignore perfectly evident facts. But it's become pretty clear that everybody does this kind of thinking, at least from time to time. It's still another reason that we need to listen carefully to ourselves. We need to examine our thoughts, and especially when we have strong feelings attached to those thoughts. Perhaps a quick, strong feeling about something needs to be a red flag to us. Exactly the right time to ask ourselves, is this the opinion, the attitude, or action that Jesus would do? Would Jesus think this way? Jesus is our way shower. He is the one who we can copy and be safe. Maybe we should often ask ourselves that question. Would Jesus think this? Would he do it? Would he say it? Maybe we need to take a second look at any quick decisions we're tempted to make and teach ourselves to just slow down. Some people make decisions slowly. Other people just go right into them immediately. Maybe we all need to teach ourselves to hang on a minute here. Is there more I need to know about this? Do I need to keep my ears open and my mouth shut? Maybe I should talk about someone who knows a lot more than I do about this subject. Yes, certainly there are those times when a gut feeling, an intuition, leads us very quickly into the perfect decision at the time, the perfect path of action. But at times it can mislead us. The absolutely best way to keep our thinking, our intentions and actions true to the spiritual reason we walk the paths of life is to stay as close as possible to the inspired words in 1 John. God is love, and he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in him. When our daily intention is to keep reminding ourselves, today I'll take another look. Today, this time, I will look with love, not with judgment. Seeing every other person as my brother, my sister in God. I'd like to understand them better. I don't understand them. But even if I don't, I continue to see the good within them. Just as I want them to see the good in me. Life is a school, and my mission in life is to give others permission to be, to say, and to do whatever will most enhance their spiritual growth. I'm deeply convinced that my greatest spiritual growth lies in loving God, loving myself, and loving everyone else. And certainly staying true to the thought that I carry love in everything I think. With God's help, it will be so. Shall we go within and understand that, yes, indeed, we have at many times made emotional decisions based on nothing but some old programs, old beliefs that have not been examined, to our detriment and to the detriment of our interaction with others. With God's help, we will stop before we speak, before we make a decision, and look at facts. Speak to those who are experts. Glean both wisdom and knowledge from others before we make snap judgments. For the better way, indeed the best way, of making decisions about all the many things in life, we turn to God and give thanks in advance for His help. Amen.
Amen.
As many of you know, I often change what I had planned to play. Why is that? Well, you may also notice that it's always the second song that I change. And that's because I listen to what was being said, then I try to pick a song. If the one that I already picked fits, then I play it. If it doesn't, then I try to pick a song that fits the mood that the speaker just set. One of the songs I had thought about playing tonight, this afternoon, was a song called My Way. I think I will anyway. I do My Way, actually, My Way. It's written as a ballad, and it sounds very sad. When I play it as a bossa nova, it's a little happy to me.
Thank you, Bill. That was lovely. Okay, so now is the time in our service for the blessing of the gifts. If you'll join with me and sing together. Today, I acknowledge God, omnipresent, as the source of all good, as the source of my good. With this acknowledgement, I accept His will, which is abundance in every aspect of my life. I release all thoughts of lack and limitations, and I am open and receptive to the increased flow of abundance to me right now. I joyfully accept the gifts of life and give freely of the special gift that I am. Through me, God omnipresent blesses and multiplies this gift for all. Thank you, dear God.
We'll pass the prayer basket around. And life is self-interest. That's what it is. When you pray for somebody else, because it blesses you even more than it does now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, we're going to get started with the most important thing today after this message is the birthdays Sunday. February birthdays, we have Ann, Angie, Cindy, and Tina. Ann's the only one here, so let's see. Happy birthday. Join us next door for birthday cake and coffee and tea and whatever else is over there. So, and thank you, Melanie, for providing that today. We still have a couple of months to sign up for birthday cake. If anybody's willing to do that, we appreciate everybody that take the responsibility for doing the cake once a month. So we've got like 2 months left in there to sign up. So if anybody feels like they can bake or buy it, we don't care. So as long as you provide it. So, and we thank you in advance for that. We'll be collecting soup for the senior citizens through this week. I will pick it up next Sunday after church and deliver it. So soup and crackers, and I think there's probably some other things on the list, but we have boxes at the front and in the annex, so please help us with that. We do that every year for the senior citizens. This Thursday night, we have our movie night at 6:30. We're still watching a series called Connect, is that right? Connections. I always get that mixed up. Anyhow, it's a very interesting series that we're watching. So 6:30 Thursday night. Tuesday night is Pam's journey class at 6:30. And we're not going to have craft for the next couple of Thursdays, or probably longer than that, because Anne's going to be having her surgery on Valentine's Day. So she will be just fine. Lots of love there. But anyhow, we unless we come up, and we may end up doing a craft. We get very creative, so we may do that. We have a good time with it. So we'll let you know as the next week rolls around. The flowers this week are sponsored by Judy in memory of her father, mother, and son. She's not here, so I'm going to get in contact with her to see that she gets them. One last thing I wanted to mention is, and this is just a little minor thing, but when we go to fill up the trash cans outside, if everybody can make sure that one trash can is full before you throw something in another trash can, it would help Gil a lot, because he comes over here and there's one bag in this one and one bag in that one, and then he won't, trying to truck those things up the hill. So make sure one of them is full before you throw something in the other one.
And we appreciate, I really do appreciate you taking care of that, Gil, because it has saved me a lot of trips over here. Anybody else got anything? Maurita, Nancy, about your class, or Maurita, got anything? Your class, you still gonna do your Ian's class on Valentine's Day night? It's 14th, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to check and make sure we're still going. Okay, and, all right, well, let's see, and hopefully by, not hopefully, we will have this projector corrected before I leave here today.
Will, I need it tomorrow night.
That's how confident I am.
Yes, yay. Okay, Sam, you are able, and we are going to sing number 8, Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee, and we will do 1, 2, and 3 of that.
Shall we make a circle?
You have to look, they trimmed his face back. Yeah, you have to look at those eyes.
We're hand in hand, realizing that when people make sudden decisions based just on emotion or inadequate information, things do not unfold in harmony. But we are all guilty of it. We all need to work on this. And with God's help, we will enlarge our understanding. We will do as Jesus would. And we will live lives of spiritual fullness and success. Thank you that it is so, beloved Father. Amen.
Amen.